Yo, what's good, guys? It's me, Jay. I want to talk a little bit about Terminator: Dark Fate, a movie that I saw a couple weeks ago. I don't really. I mean, the movie was alright. The action sequences was decent, but one of the things I didn't really care for was the beginning. And there's gonna be spoilers in this, so whoever hasn't seen it, too bad. They shoot John Connor in the beginning of the movie. Now, it's not Nick Stahl's John Connor. It's not um, Christian Bale. Obviously, it's not his John Connor, and it's not the John Connor whoever played him in Terminator Genesis. It's Ed Furlong John Connor, a CGI'd version of Ed Furlong's John Connor from the movie Terminator 2, and the Terminator that shoots him is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, Terminator Dark Fate is a sequel to Terminator 2, a direct sequel to Terminator 2. They're ignoring Terminator Rise of the Machines, they're ignoring Salvation, they're ignoring Genesis. They're just focusing on Terminator 2. And in Terminator 2, the character of Arnold Schwarzenegger and the character of Edward Furlong, John Connor, and the Terminator T-800 developed a father-son relationship. So to see this scene of John being shot in front of his mother in Nicaragua by this Terminator that was like his father is very disturbing. And then, okay, the rest of it is your basic Terminator storyline. They send a machine human hybrid, something like Marcus Wright in Terminator Salvation. That was initially what came to my mind when I saw um, uh, what Mackenzie Davis's character of Grace was. I said, damn, that's just like Marcus Wright in Terminator Salvation. So she's a human hybrid machine, and she's sent back in the future to protect Danny Ramos. Now, who is Danny Ramos? Danny Ramos is just some random daughter of a Mexican immigrant family working in a factory, and the factory jobs are being either shipped overseas or taken over by artificial intelligence. Now, this is very timely in the real world in which we live in because as Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang has pointed out, many jobs are being taken over by artificial intelligence. So this is what's happening to Danny's father. And Danny and her brother Javier, they have a very unique bond. Javier wants to learn English. He wants to be the next Bruno Mars. He wants to sing English. But unfortunately, when the Terminator, the Rev 9 that was sent back to kill Danny Ramos comes, he kills Javier. And then Danny Ramos meets Grace, and then they're overwhelmed because one of the special powers that the new Terminator, the new Rev 9 Terminator has is that he could split into two. So he could be his liquid metal skeleton like the T-1000 and his regular metal skeleton like the T-800. So there's two Terminators fighting Danny and Grace. And then who comes out of a car? Linda Hamilton, playing the part of Sarah Connor. Now, they don't know who Sarah Connor is. They've never heard of her. It's not like, it wasn't like a lot of people compare this film to Star Wars The Force Awakens. But in Star Wars The Force Awakens, Finn knew about Luke Skywalker. Rey knew the legends of Luke Skywalker. A lot of people had known in the galaxy the legends of Luke Skywalker. He was nowhere to be found, but they knew about his legends. You know what I mean? So it's different from that. In this, they didn't know anything about Sarah Connor. They didn't even know about Skynet, the AI that was supposed to become self-aware that was going to destroy the world. And why they didn't know about Skynet? Well, turns out that the events of Terminator 2, what Miles Dyson and Arnold Schwarzenegger and John Connor and Sarah Connor did in the events of T2 by um, destroying Cyberdyne and preventing the rise of Skynet did prevent Judgment Day on August 29th, 1997. But what it didn't do was prevent a different Judgment Day, a different AI. Legion rose up and Legion took over the world. So Grace in them is fighting Legion. They're not fighting Skynet. When Sarah Connor talks about Skynet, they don't even know what she's talking about. They're like, Skynet? What? Never heard of such a thing. So we find out that after John Connor died, Sarah Connor became this huntress of Terminators. Every time there's a Terminator sent back in time, Sarah Connor just kills him. But where is she getting this information from? Turns out she's getting this information from Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, who was the exact same Terminator that killed John Connor in the beginning of the movie. He suddenly has a conscience. He's suddenly reformed, and he's living in Laredo, Texas, and his name is Carl. So they have to. They're in Mexico now. They have to go from Mexico to across the border to Texas, and it's a real big social commentary on immigration, something that is very topical in American politics. And they even dropped the name of the Sinaloa drug cartel, El Chapo's drug cartel, in the movie, insinuating that Danny and them are part of that cartel. So, yeah, it's very timely, and it really comments a lot on politics, what's going on in the world with Mexico and the United States, and the border crisis, ICE, and all the detainees and everything. But being that Danny is Hispanic, being even that the Rev 9 is played by Gabriel Luna, another Hispanic man, most of the cast is Hispanic. That's funny because I was thinking, like, when John Connor was teaching the Terminator the words in T2, he was teaching him "Hasta la vista, baby, no problemo," and stuff, because he was raised in Mexico, right? Because after Kyle Reese died and Sarah destroyed the first Terminator, she went down to Mexico. She was living in California. Right? So, anyway, uh, they go. He Sarah Connor basically tells Arnie's Terminator that she's gonna kill him because he killed John Connor, and he says, "Well, that was my job, that was my mission. But since that time, I've I'm married, and now I have a son, and I'm raising my son. Of course, the son is from another marriage. Terminators cannot conceive children, but yeah, like, and she doesn't know that I'm a Terminator. But anyway, he leaves the family. He goes off to fight with the rest of our heroes. But as Mackenzie Davis' character is losing power, right? Because she runs on. She's uh, uh, she's half human, half machine, and she runs on these drugs, and she can only fight Terminators in like blasts of seconds. She cannot fight them for a long period of time, so she has to kill instantly. When she doesn't, she runs low. And they have there's a scene where they have to bust into a pharmacy and rob all their drugs. And even when they get to the detention center, they're like, "Wait a minute, you didn't check her for drugs?" And then she just starts kicking their ass. Well, and then of course at the end, the Rev 9 is destroyed. They use the same ending from Terminator 3. Uh, Instead of Arnold Schwarzenegger using his generator, Mackenzie Davis used her generator. But then there's a scene at the end when Sarah Connor and Danny Ramos are going to going away. They see a little a little kid version of Grace playing in the yard because according to this story, it has some flashbacks. Grace was orphaned when the apocalypse started, and it was Danny Ramos who found her and raised her, similarly to how John Connor in Terminator Salvation and Terminator Genesis found Kyle Reese, and Kyle Reese was raised by John Connor, even though Kyle Reese is the father of John Connor. Well, Grace isn't the mother of Danny Ramos. I don't think so. But Danny Ramos does. I mean, Grace does serve under Danny Ramos, and Danny Ramos sends Grace back in time to save her from the Rev 9. Now, they want Disney and 20th Century Fox and all that. They want to develop this into a trilogy of movies. But as we saw with Terminator Genesis a couple of years ago, that went nowhere. The idea that Sarah Connor is a child and Arnold Schwarzenegger raised Sarah Connor, and then now Kyle Reese comes back, the T-1000 comes back, and another Terminator that could assume any shapes, and he assumes the shape of John Connor, and then you have John Connor fighting Kyle Reese and fighting his mother, Sarah Connor, turning John Connor into a heel. It didn't make no sense. This one is completely different. There's no John Connor. There's just Sarah Connor. And Sarah Connor is teaching Danny Ramos how to be a warrior because she was taught to be a warrior by Kyle Reese. And we have the famous line of Terminator. One of the famous lines. There's no fate but what we make for ourselves. Something that Sarah told John when he was a kid. And that completely goes against some of the stuff that other Terminator movies has told us, like Terminator 3. Arnold Schwarzenegger says in Terminator 3 that Judgment Day is inevitable. Judgment Day is inevitable no matter what we do. We could try to defeat Skynet, but it's always going to come back. Well, so I don't know if they're going to make other Terminators. Probably not. It's doing not doing good numbers at the box office. It's doing pretty good numbers, but not. It's still number one movie in the country, but they thought it would do like Star Wars: The Force Awakens numbers or like Avengers Endgame numbers and even the Joker numbers, and it's just not doing that good. And it has a lot to do with, like I said, politics. Get woke, go broke. Um, a lot of people don't want to see their iconic male characters like Luke Skywalker, John Connor, the Ghostbusters replaced by female protagonists. They feel like this is forced on them, and they don't want things to be forced on them, even if they are good things. They're not used to change. And seeing Danny Ramos, seeing Ray, seeing the all-female Ghostbusters is new to people. You know what I mean? Like, imagine if you had, like yesterday, you had a all black cast for The Little Mermaid. They're doing a Black Little Mermaid for the live action version. They did a Black Annie, and it didn't do so good. So people, it takes time people to get used to change. But I think that this film will develop a cult following because even with the first Terminator, Michael Biehn, who played Kyle Reese in the first Terminator, and even Arnold Schwarzenegger, and even James Cameron said that Terminator in 1984 wasn't wasn't that big. It became, excuse me, big on home video. Now, in other news, um, Popeyes is still cranking out chicken sandwiches all across the country, and it's juxtaposed to the primary elections. The primary elections, I don't know where they're gonna go. I hope that Joe Biden wins because I think Joe Biden is the only guy that could really defeat Trump. Trump, he's been booed. Was booed at the World Series. He was booed at the UFC uh, um, UFC 244 events, Masvidal versus Diaz in the Garden, and he was booed at He's been booed everywhere he's gone. But if people don't see a strong enough Democrat candidate in 2020 to go with against Trump, they're still going to vote for Trump. You know what I mean? Because they their reasoning is the devil you know is better than the devil that you don't know. They know Trump. They know he fucks up. They know he cheated to win. Him in Ukraine, I mean him in Russia, they rigged the election. Putin wanted him in office, so Putin got him in office. Um, so they know the dirty things he does. And I saw this funny thing on Facebook. Speaking of Trump, that uh, that Ray J, the brother of Brandy, the man who basically put Kim Kardashian on, the man who said to Kanye, "I hit it first," right? Is trying to get Trump to pardon Suge Knight, the notorious gangster, founder of Death Row Records, a man they say is responsible for the death of Tupac Shakur. Pardon him for this stuff. And Trump's dumbass would do something like that because Trump has been trying to reach out to rappers, a lot of rappers. He's tried to invite them to the White House, try to be cool with them, try to be cool with Kanye, try to really reach out to like the black African American audience. You know what I mean? And it hasn't really worked because people remember him in his racist past in New York City, like the movie, like when they see us. But he's tried. Um, he's cool with Kim Kardashian. He's cool with Kanye. And remember when ASAP Rocky was in jail in Sweden, and Trump made a couple of calls to get ASAP Rocky released from jail for when in Sweden, but he wouldn't do the same thing for. He wouldn't do uh, the same thing for the Ball brothers. It was like, okay, yeah, the Ball brothers, that they're in China. Let them stay in China. But for ASAP Rocky, Kanye's boy, he moved fast. You know. So this might be something like that too. And he pardoned Jack Johnson, first black heavyweight champion in boxing. So he's been trying to get in the good graces of black folk since 2016. It hasn't worked because he also aligns himself with all right Nazis and he's racist and shit. But he's been trying. And speaking of his buddy Kanye, um, he now has the number one album in the country, man. I mean, Jesus is King. You know, when he first started doing this, I was gonna make a video on it. I was gonna make a video asking y'all, what do you really think? Do you think Kanye is sincere about not only running for president in 2024, but um, sincere about his Christianity? Because we've seen this with rappers before, where they've embraced Christianity, like Mace, and then they've come back, or they've embraced Islam in certain cases, like Loon, or even Judaism, like Shine, and they've come back. And everybody's always accused Kanye of mental illness. You know, Kanye's always on some new shit. Remember when back in the day when he got on stage and interrupted Taylor Swift getting a VMA, or the time he said George Bush don't care about black people after Katrina. You know, he's done some, or when he brought out the Confederate flag when he was doing the album of New Slaves. He's always really been an eccentric person. Like he likes to keep himself in the headlines. But with this, when he became a MAGA supporter, a Trump supporter, and then now a Christian, he's kind of taken his whole persona into a whole new level. But it's like, okay, dog, like how do you become a Christian and your wife is Kim Kardashian and she's the biggest hoe there is? You know what I'm saying? Like, God could turn your life around. That's true. The Bible is all about forgiveness. But don't do it for a scam. You know, don't do it to sell records, because that's going to backfire you. Because if you get that evangelical vote on your side, which many of them do, you know, many of them like Kanye. I made this comment um, recently. I said, if you'd have told me in 2004 that Kanye West would be loved by conservatives and Eminem would be hated by liberals, I would have called you. I mean, that Eminem would have been hated by conservatives and loved by liberals, and Kanye would have been hated by liberals and loved by conservatives. I'd have called you a liar, because in 2004 was when, with Mike Myers, aka Austin Powers, aka Wayne from Wayne's World, during the Katrina benefit, was when Kanye said George Bush don't care about black people, and conservatives up in arms when he said it, and they hated him and they despised him, and his rap was conscious and it was pro black and it was Afrocentric. Even his first album, College Dropout, he's he said, you know, that his rap is like spoken word, and how blacks came from glory and all that stuff when all falls down. Then Eminem at that time was going through the incident where he had made a tape when he was a kid rapping about a black girl that he'd gone out with, and she didn't, you know, she broke up with him. And a lot of people, that's when he had the battle with Benzino, and a lot of people turned on him, except for the right wing, racist people, that they started to declare that he was the god of rap and everything. So, but now Eminem's going against Trump. Kanye is pro Trump. People like Kanye, hate Eminem. It's kind of weird. It's really weird. This This how this is taking a turn. Like Kanye is the favorite rapper of people like Ben Shapiro, the favorite rapper of people like Andrew Clavin, the favorite rapper of people like Rush Limbaugh, and shit, even people that don't even like rap, like Bill O'Reilly, probably bumping Kanye now because he said Jesus is king. You know what I mean? So Jesus is king, but do you want to give the glory to Jesus, or do you want to give the glory to Kanye? You want to give the glory to Jesus. You don't want to give the glory to Kanye. Kanye is probably just using this for a scheme, to sell some expensive Yeezys or whatever. You know what I mean? You got to be careful, guys. You know what I mean? Because we don't see a lot of references in popular culture to faith and to God and His Word, but a lot of times celebrities will pay homage to God, like Chance the Rapper a couple of years ago. They give thanks to God, but they promote things that are not biblical. They live a lifestyle that isn't biblical. Now, I'm not saying that Kanye is not turning his life around. Maybe he is. I believe in giving people the benefit of the doubt, especially what he's been through with the death of his mom. But don't follow him like he walks on water because he don't. You know what I'm saying? He's just a humble servant. As far as his politics with MAGA and Trump, I think that was just a publicity stunt to begin with. And this whole other thing about T.I. saying that he goes to the gynecologist with his daughter to make sure she still has her hymen, I think this is kind of weird. You know, like like who goes to the gynecologist with their child in the gynecologist's office saying that they checked the little girl's hymen? I mean, really, like, and plus, what makes this even funnier is that T.I.'s daughter is 18. You know what I'm saying? She's not no child. She's not a baby. She's 18 years old. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's retarded. But I get, Ti. He's a little overprotective and shit. But I think that's going a little bit too far. What do you guys think? But that's really all that's in the news right now. Again, Disney Plus be coming out soon. There's a lot of stuff on Disney Plus that's going to be very, very good. I know that the internet will probably crash the day that it launches because I remember when they tried to launch healthcare.gov in 2012, and again when they tried to launch WWE Network. Man, I remember distinctly the WWE Network shit not coming up for like 2 or 3 days. And I paid for my subscription. I'm freaking out. I'm freaking out. I'm like, yo, when's it gonna come? When's it gonna come? And it kept fucking up, man, because there was so many people online for the WWE Network. Now the WWE Network, you know, we've been in this shit for about a good 6 years, maybe. And they've had a good couple of years, but I don't know, it was faded out. But it's one of the few streaming services that came out. And yeah, I'm still gonna do. Speaking of Disney, I'm still gonna do the review on Bob Iger's book. Man, I'm gonna check that. I recommend you guys check that out, especially if you're a Disney fan, and to see how Disney got to where they're at. Peace. And WWE needs to get to where they need to be too. I was thinking too, maybe WWE should sell themselves to Disney. I mean, they're dealing with Fox right now, and Fox, after the merger, Fox is basically a WWE subsidiary. I mean, a Disney subsidiary, so it could work. I don't know. It was an April Fool's joke about it. Because, like, look at the debacle they had in Saudi Arabia. They couldn't even get back. The Prince wanted to hold them. He wanted to hold them hostage because he didn't like the payoff. I doubt they'll be going back there anytime soon. And Crown Jewel was shit anyway. You know, I was reading this book about movies, and it said that the reason why Hollywood is making all these old movies is because China, they only want to see reboots, remakes, and stuff from the 80s and 90s. They don't want to see. Um, they don't want to see um, newer stuff and stuff that's nuanced because they don't really understand English that well. So they only want to. This is why like Marvel is successful, Terminator, things like this is very successful. Not because the American audiences we're burned out from it, but for them they like it because that's what they understand. That's their level. Not to say that Asians are not as intelligent as Americans, they are, but they can't understand English, so they understand explosions and they understand nostalgia. And I think it's similar with the Saudi Arabian wrestling fans. Is that they don't they don't really get these newer stars that we are into here in America. They want to see the old stars, and sometimes they want to see old stars that are passed away, like Ultimate Warrior and Yokozuna. you know. Anyway, peace.